Welcome to the Drummers Debate Podcast, Episode 3. And today we have Joe Riley.
Hello.
And Josh Salant. And we are in Salant Sound Studios. Thanks for having me here.
Anytime.
Really
Thanks
excited
for
about
coming
this.
and hanging.
Yeah, bro.
So today's topic is the band as good as the drummer? Or should I say, the band is only as good as the drummer? What do you think about that, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. You know, the drummer's got to keep time. He keeps the band even. He controls the dynamics of the band, the volume of the band. There's a lot of stuff us drummers do.
Definitely.
So yeah,
Sure.
I would say definitely. Totally.
And what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think if you have a band that's doing great and they're all very talented, but you have a drummer who's not that great, it'll ruin the whole flow. You know what I mean? Because you have to have a drummer that's able to keep the pace at the right pace, doesn't want to go too fast, too slow, too loud, too soft, like you said, dynamic and whatnot. And I mean, it's like the core of the whole band right there. You know what I mean? Like you're keeping the rhythm and everything. So I think it's just as important as anything else, if not more important, because you can't really mess up if you're messing up the rhythm and the timing. There's no way to like cover that up. It's either you're on or you're off. So.
And the drums are so loud too, so you
Yeah.
can't hide mistakes there.
You
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
hide mistakes. That is so true.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree.
Okay.
I think that you're only as strong as your weakest link in anything. Bands, business. So, for example, if you're a drummer that could keep time and the rest of the band is good, like say the guitarist is great, the bassist is great, the singer is great, but you're a basic drummer just like keeping simple time and you're actually fulfilling that part, then you'll all be great. You know, you don't have to be, I don't think you have to be as talented as the most talented musician in that band, but if you're playing your part and you're playing that beat, for example, when we were talking about the White Stripes,
Yeah.
right? Jack White is an amazing guitarist. The drummer might not be that good. I don't know personally. She's playing as basic as possible, but she's keeping that time, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
nailing it. She's
Yeah.
nailing the meat and potatoes of playing drums.
And there's
Right.
only
Hold
two
down
of
the
them
band.
too, so each one stands out more. You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
Exactly.
Think about that. There's no bass player to hide behind.
Yeah.
Now, say for example, the drummer is amazing. He's playing on time, all his dynamics are correct, but the bassist is just not clicking in with the drummer. Like he's not hitting the bass drum notes, or he's just not playing his parts correctly, and you hear his mistakes. Then I think that the band is still gonna sound bad.
Yeah,
Right?
true.
So in that case, the drummer might be the strong point, but the bassist is the weak point. So now the sound is still disoriented. You can't really say the band sounds great anymore. You're gonna say that drummer is really good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
So like, what do you think about having a musician in the band that's just screwing up the sound? Like, so if I'm a drummer and I'm playing and I'm great, but the guitarist is off and the drummer's off, I can't really say that, you know, the band is only as good as the drummer.
Yeah, I think a band is only as good as the sum of its parts, and not the individual in the individual players. You know, sometimes you see bands of people, you know, that they're all great individually, but they don't work very well together.
Yeah,
Right.
Click.
They don't have a sound. A lot of times that can work. Like if you have like a funk bass player and like a rock drummer and like a jazz guitar player, like some of that stuff is cool when it comes from different genres. It makes the band very unique.
Yeah.
But if the playing is not up to par and they're just not tight, then they're just not tight.
Exactly. So did I just make you guys agree with me? Did I change your opinion?
I think you changed our opinion.
Shit.
No, it's cool. I mean, that's just personally what I think. I mean, the drums are first thing about a drummer that's the most important is keeping the tempo. If you can't keep the tempo, then everything's off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you can't keep the band in place, then nothing is going to work. But if you keep the band in place, even if you're playing a basic beat, if the rest of the band is super talented and you're not super talented, but you can play that basic beat really good, then the whole band sounds good.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a good drummer is a great place to start because they're the foundation of the band. And not just in terms of rhythm and tempo, but like sonically too. A drummer that is balanced and kind of mixes herself. It just makes everything else fit into place. Like if a drummer's hitting the kick and he's like boom, 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 and it's just like not even, then like there's no rock solid kick that the bass player can latch onto.
Yeah, definitely.
So it has to be like there's so many things about being a good drummer, just from a basic perspective of just basic playing, even playing on time, not overplaying, not playing too loud, like it's so many things.
Yeah, like if you have it's like you said, being a drummer, like you have to have the basics down. You know what I mean? Like you can't fudge your way around and kind of like you have to be on point. You know what I mean? Whereas like a guitarist, he can hide behind the distortion. He can hide behind an effect pedal. You know what I mean? Like
less.
He doesn't have to be perfect. Is the thing, and there's other things that'll help. If he's not on point, you can mask it. Maybe not make it not as noticeable. The drummer, on the other hand, I feel like it's either on or off. You're on point or you're messing up. So
I agree.
Yeah, I used to play with the drummer like when I was like much younger, and the drummer, he just would never come back from his fills on time. So he'd go like always early. And I was playing bass in the band, so I would almost try to cover him up by coming in early too. Like I kind of knew when he was going to come in, so it kind of sounds like we're together, but there's really no excuse.
Yeah.
There's
You can't cover that up.
Yeah, there's really no way to fix it.
Yeah. You tried your best though.
I tried.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to one of my friends, Dan Douglas, and he plays bass. He's been playing bass for a super long time, and he told me like 15 years ago, he's like, as a bass player, I have to lock in. Like I'm locking into the kick drum. That's my job. Like locking in is the main meat and potatoes, and it really stuck with me because it just shows the relationship between a drummer and a bass player and how important it is for them to really work in tandem.
Yeah.
And if one of those guys isn't pulling their weight, you got a weak rhythm section.
Yeah.
That sucks.
That's the worst.
Foundation,
You can't have a weak rhythm section if you want a good band. That's the meat and potatoes, like you said.
Yeah.
Now I know we're all three drummers, so me personally, when I go to a gig or I'm going to see other bands, that's like my focus. I'm like looking at the drummer, listening to the drummer because I'm a drummer. Mm-hmm. So I focus on that. So I might personally say, this band is not good. Maybe because the drummer's off, but that's my personal opinion, right? But like to the public's eye or whoever is listening to the music, the album, or whatever the case may be, they're listening to, the non-musician, I should say, they're listening to everything as a whole. I can't say that the band is good because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if your singer sucks, your band sucks. Like we were just talking about the Mars Volta. I love the Mars Volta. Instrumentally.
Yeah.
And even though Omar, the guitarist, was super like, he was just sloppy. I mean, that was acceptable. I guess that was his playing style.
Yeah.
But some people love the music, but they couldn't take the vocals. So it's a personal opinion also, depending on the person's style, what they're playing.
You saying people didn't like the vocals?
I know a lot of people that didn't like the vocals of Mars Volta. They loved the instrumental, but they couldn't take the vocals for some reason. I guess because he had that high-pitched, screechy voice. I loved it. I mean,
me too. Yeah.
So
Rush too.
The
band Rush.
Rush too.
People hate Geddy Lee's voice.
Yeah.
I know.
And like you listen to Geddy Lee, like he's playing bass, he's playing keys, he's playing Taurus pedals, bass pedals, and he's singing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the guy is
Incredible,
awesome.
yeah.
But his timbre of his voice drives people nuts.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you go to another show when you go to a show and you look at the other bands that you get super judgmental of the drummer? Do you ever think like you're looking at him and you just
like comparing their skills to mine, or
like you compare like, oh, he's better than me, or I'm better than that guy, or like do you ever fall into that?
I actually do, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a judgmental thing. I think it's more like a friendly competition thing.
Yeah, like
you kind of want to go to a show and see a drummer that's better than you, because I think it'll motivate you to practice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So you want to go to the show hoping that you see good musicians or musicians at your caliber or better, hopefully.
Yeah.
Then you can go home and be like, damn, that drummer was great. I need to practice more.
Yeah. I used to be the same way. I used to go to shows and kind of selfishly be like, oh, I hope that I sound the best. Like, I hope that everyone thinks that after they see everyone play that they consider me the best drummer who was playing that night. Really selfish and like an unhealthy way to look at the thing. But now, like you just said, I prefer going to a show and being blown away, and like I take more away from a show when I notice that there's someone who's doing something that I've never seen before, or they're doing it better than anyone else I've ever seen, and like it motivates me to want to practice more and get better and be able to identify areas where like I'm not doing that great, and that I can, all right, maybe I need to work on this, or you know what I mean? So I feel like I appreciate people who are better than me now, as opposed to like being in like competition with them.
Like it's competition or intimidated.
Yeah, just like a stupid little thing in my head. Like I wouldn't say it to anyone, or it would just be like a way that I would like interpret it. You know what I mean? And so I feel like now I'm looking at it more as, like you said, like trying to be inspired and finding areas of where I can do better and things like that. You know?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, I find that, like, you know, seeing drummers. I mean, you know, I used to think like that, and now I can't, because everybody has their own feel and their own style.
Yeah.
And like, sure, there's things that are like technically better and technically worse, but sometimes you just see a guy, like, especially like if you see like a really young drummer, like 16.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they play, and they may not have like all like the great chops, but what they do, they just do so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe because they're a kid and they have all the energy, they hit really hard. And like you know, I think, oh man, I'd get tired after the first song if I had to hit like that.
Yeah.
But then you think about it, it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like, it's like it's a different angle, it's a different approach, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps everything fun and interesting and different and inspirational on all fronts. Really, no matter what their skill level is, right? It's like just how somebody attacks a drum, and of course, you know, stage presence. You know, when you go see a show, like you want to see a guy that or a girl that's gonna put on a good show and not just sit there and be bored. You know, you want to see somebody
definitely. You want a show. That's why you're going to see the
Yeah.
show. Now, what if you went to a show and I'm always conflicted with this idea of stage presence and performance, because I feel like a lot of the guys that I see, they want to give you a show, but when they give you a show, it interferes with their performance because they're going so crazy, or they want to be a little bit more expressive than they should be. Right? So what would you say? Would you say you rather see a guy that is strictly like performance because you're there for the show? I mean, you already know how they sound, or maybe you don't know how they sound. So let's say this is your first impression, and these guys, they're amazing. The drummer is amazing, but he's just not on time. Yeah. But he's a great showman.
Yeah, I think you have to nail. I think you have to serve your band before you start doing antics.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
You know.
You ever see the YouTube videos where it's like the drummer is in the wrong band? And like those things are cool. Don't get me wrong. Like they're very entertaining, and the guy's flipping the sticks, and he's
so
like
good.
freaking
He's
out.
so
and
good.
Yeah, that's cool. And he's taking care of the first thing, which is like make sure you're on time and then making the band sound good. You know.
Yeah.
And then he adds his element too, but it's kind of like he's taking it to an extreme level. That's just like, you know what I mean? It's like this dude's going overboard.
It's like the circus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you're not even
juggling.
there for the music. You're there just to see him do all this like acrobatic stuff. And it's like, well,
and you know that guy, you know, since he became, you know, he totally got YouTube famous and stuff.
Yeah,
He's on shows and stuff like.
Yeah.
People call him because they want to see him. Like
it
actually helped his career.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you guys a question. Is it possible to upstage your band as a drummer? Like, let's say, like you don't want people. Of course, people are going to be looking at all the musicians in the band. But is it possible you can play too wildly that the singer people lose focus on the singer, and it's a distraction? Do you guys think that's possible?
I think so, definitely. I mean, I remember playing shows where I would just go crazy, but also I was just loud as hell, and I was just doing like
You're rock and rolling, man.
yeah, I was just doing what I had to do, right? I just felt the music at the time,
Yeah.
and after the show, people will come up to me and like, "Damn, you're a good drummer, man." I really enjoyed the show, and then the rest of the band is just chilling, and like nobody's approaching them. But I mean, yeah, I think any musician at a band could steal the show, regardless of the time. It doesn't just have to be the drummer. The drummer could easily take over the whole show. Like, I think if the drummer is great and that drummer has that much skill, then the drummer could take over the show. But I think the guitarist could do that, the bassist could do that.
Yeah. You ever watch like bands on like Saturday Night Live, and like I feel like if I was on Saturday Night Live, I would like really be playing and be happy to be playing. I think that they tell the musicians like tone it down, because whenever you see a band on Saturday Night Live, they're just totally like chill. Like they they don't like even like their facial expressions.
Yeah.
Like they're just kind of like doing their thing, and everybody's like, I feel like there's like rules. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I think that there's like rules.
Do you think maybe they're nervous being on like in front of a huge audience, not just in the studio, but across the country?
They can be nervous, but I feel like they're almost like told to be toned down.
They told
it could just be me.
Yeah,
you know.
They told Rage Against the Machine like they couldn't put like a flag up, or like sometimes they say they can't play certain songs.
Yeah.
Political stuff, yeah.
Like rules, like, you know, broadcast rules or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's almost like, hey, listen, you know, you're going to be on TV, no crazy antics, no standing up, hide your kid, no crazy stick twirls. Like, I feel like that's what they tell them. It could just be me being paranoid, but every time I see him, I'm like, that's not the drummer I've seen in all the other videos.
Yeah.
That's not the Chad Smith I know. That's not the Dave Abruzzese I know.
The band
but it is.
So that band that's there playing with them, is that the Saturday Night Live band, or is that the artist's band?
It's usually the artist band.
It's usually the artist band.
Like you know,
okay.
if they're the musical guests.
Okay, because I know like a lot of times, like Jimmy Kimmel, they're like, there's a lot of musicians that come and play with the Roots, so they do like a collab thing.
That's
but
cool.
I think in the case that the artist is coming to the late night show, I think they specifically are told to tone it down because the focus needs to be on that main artist.
Yeah.
So if they're playing with, I don't know, Christina Aguilera or something like that, the focus needs to be on Christina Aguilera. This is her show.
Yeah.
Now, I guess if, I don't know, whoever coordinates the show wanted somebody to go crazy, then that person will go crazy. I remember seeing a bunch of performances on YouTube of Prince, and his drummer was John Blackwell.
Oh, he was great.
And
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they never told him to tone it down.
Yeah.
Wherever Prince was going, I mean, everybody had their specific turn to showcase their abilities. So I think it depends on the artist. I don't know, but most of the bands, like you said, that I see on these late night shows, if it's focused on a specific artist, the band is laid back. They're chilling. You know, they're not really super expressive or like not showing off, but just more into their instrument. I guess it all depends on the band.
Yeah, and it also depends on if it's a solo artist, like if it's just like Rihanna, or if it's someone like The Strokes, where it's like a whole band, you know, or Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like maybe that's different as far as like just the solo artist and then the whole band together.
Yeah,
that might be. I have not been on Saturday Night Live, so I don't know. But.
You know, Rihanna is actually a really good example, because Rihanna's musical director is Nuno Betancourt from the band Extreme, the guitar player. So I was watching with my brother Sean, and we were like, is that Nuno Betancourt? Because he was like, Nuno Betancourt was like the '80s like shredder, like just long hair and just shredding, and he's playing with Rihanna, and he's just going, That's
his gig, man.
Like that's his gig, and like it's a different guy. I mean, it's been you know years, but it's like it's almost like a different guy. Like we didn't even recognize him. You know,
that's probably just what his job is. You know, like his job right there is to play just like that in the background to Rihanna doing simple stuff. Like he's not getting paid to shred. You know, I feel like that might just be part of the gig. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you have to play to the gig, right?
Yeah, I remember watching. Have you guys seen the Super Bowl performance of Bruno Mars? Like,
oh yeah.
Every musician on stage was super talented, right?
And Bruno killed it on the drums too.
I'm not gonna say that I'm sure of this, but I'm sure that the drummer that was playing for Bruno Mars was better than Bruno Mars.
That's
as
his
a
brother,
drum.
you know.
Really?
Yeah, it's his brother.
The drummer for Bruno Mars?
Yeah.
Okay, so see, I don't know, but that drummer didn't get any spotlight that night. Bruno Mars got the spotlight. He got off the drum set, and Bruno Mars got on the drum set and did his solo. So everything was focused on him. So it all depends on the gig,
Disrespectful.
right? I was like, I'm the drummer. Give me some burn, right? Give the drummer some.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's I think that comes to the territory of being a front man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's your name. You know, you have to really control the band and you know you have to be the star. And you don't want your you want your band to be as great as they can be, but you don't want people to upstage you. I mean, I know it was really weird with like Little Richard because Jimi Hendrix was Little Richard's guitar player.
I did not know that.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah, so and Jimi Hendrix has such an iconic look with the left-handed Strat and just the way he looks, and so they literally used to put him in the dark. They used to take the lights off of him, put him in the dark.
But at that time, was he Jimi Hendrix that we know?
No, it was before that.
Okay,
No,
this before that. Okay.
This is before he was. See, if you read about Jimi Hendrix, like he was playing in a lot of bands in the States, but he didn't really make it until he was taken to England by one of the Animals. They took him to England. That's where he blew up.
Eric Clapton and everything.
Yeah. And like what's his name? Eric Burden, from the Animals, and I forgot who really took one under his wing. I think it was the bass player, but it's like it's crazy how you can like go to another place and actually get some respect. I mean, that's pretty disrespectful, man, to like turn the lights down on you.
They knew how much of a beast he was. Probably, and they were like,
been.
Yeah.
And he was getting. I mean, it seemed like Little Richard was getting jealous.
Oh, absolutely. No question.
I wonder if there's performance footage. I got to check that out.
There's gotta be, man. There's gotta be
on YouTube. You think? Yeah.
But they used to do it all. They used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, or like even like a lot of those vocal groups from the 50s and 60s and Motown and stuff like the band. Like a lot of it was that awesome rotating cast. I think they were called the Funk Brothers. And there was a bunch of bass players and drummers and stuff. But they were also like kind of like in the back, and and the lead the singers were dancing, and they were the spotlight. It's like kind of like know your role on for the gig.
Yeah.
He was a hired guy. I think like a lot of those artists, the music is produced way before the band even comes in, right? I'm just assuming that some bands are like that, some bands are not. But if I'm the artist and I created the music, and then the band comes in, I'm just handpicking like the best that I could possibly get for that position, right? So if I can do that, I'll do that while still taking the spotlight. But those guys, either it's the creative director's choice to either have them, perform like they want to perform or lay back.
Yeah.
Because all the music nowadays, especially like with the artists that we have, like Lady Gaga, whoever is popular now that we hear on the radio, they're not bands. We don't have a rock radio station. There's no bands right now that we can hear on public radio.
That are popular.
Yeah, that are popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're handpicked for these artists. Sometimes these artists don't even pick these musicians themselves. Sometimes it's the production company that's picking the artist to back up this artist.
Hey, meet your drummer. Hey, meet your bass player. Meet
Yeah.
your guitar player.
Exactly.
And it might be different each
Nice
tour.
to meet you for the first time.
Yeah.
I know there's no guitar parts on
and
the
it
record.
changes up, like you said. Like,
Yeah.
I know there's not much guitar parts on the record, but he's just gonna play the keyboard parts and double or make something up.
Yeah.
You listen to stuff like that, you're like, wow, there's not much guitar on this track. But live, the guy's got to do something. He's gonna make up something.
Yeah.
Did you ever see? There's like a guy who writes these songs, and he'll write for so many artists that are like on the top 100 Billboard. Like it's only like 5 dudes that are actually writing these songs, and then they'll sell them to the artists. So like there'll be a guy who writes, let's say as an example, he does like 7 songs in a week, and he'll go up to Rihanna and be like, hey, do you like any of these? Do you want to buy them? And then she'll get his songs that he wrote and perform them as her own. You know what I mean? Like What's that called when it's like someone who's writing the songs for? Or,
Ghostwriters.
Is that
Ghostwriter? Yeah.
Not
And
to
they
be
could do it for
confused with the
multiple-
Awesome Comics.
Yeah,
Whatever you
yeah.
want to call it.
But he could do that for multiple artists, like Bruno Mars and beyond, and like, you know what I mean? Like he'll be selling them to all different artists, not just one.
There's a lot of people who do that. I mean, Bruno Mars before he was he was always a performer, but he wasn't. He was a producer. He wasn't performing a lot. He was writing songs. He was helping people get their records out, and then he's like, you know what? I'm still a performer. I gotta focus on my stuff.
Yeah.
And he did, and look how big he got.
Yeah, a lot of artists came out like that. Kanye West and a bunch of
Yeah,
guys.
Kanye and Jay-Z, right?
Yeah.
And that's like years of experience. I mean, to work with artists and help really help develop their sound, like that's good experience for when you want to go do it. I think
that's crazy.
Definitely.
And who's the one who did it for Beyonce? And she wrote, or no, I'm sorry, she did it for Rihanna, and then she wrote the Chandelier song.
Oh, that's Sia, right?
Sia, yeah.
Oh,
she used to
Sia,
do
yeah.
that.
She's solo now.
And exactly.
Yeah,
now
she
she's
has
solo,
her own
yeah.
project, which is
And
really
no
good.
one's ever seen her face.
Really?
She's mysterious.
Really?
Yeah, well, like that's her thing. She always has the
Oh
blonde
yeah,
hair,
that half mask.
the blonde hair. And the
I didn't know
mask,
that.
Yeah. So I mean, people obviously have seen her face.
She doesn't want to be spotted, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like the Daft Punk guys are geniuses.
Yeah,
Because
they are.
can still go to the store and no one will know who they are. Like, they don't get bombarded like the Beatles or anything. You
Oh
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it, man. Like, fans get nuts.
Yeah, fans get crazy.
Yeah.
I remember this guitarist Buckethead. I still
Yeah.
don't know
Love
who he is
Buckethead.
till this day.
Is
Yeah.
that Slash?
No, it's not Slash. It's not
his,
Slash.
He's his own guy,
Damn.
and like of course he has a backstory. Like he was raised in a coop.
Yeah,
His father put him in a
yeah.
coop, and like he had a porcelain mask, and he found the bucket and he put it on his head, and
Oh, God.
that's it. And like it's a cool shtick.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
It's a shtick.
Yeah.
It's that's another thing. Some drummers they just have like a gimmick. Like to go back to the White Stripes again. Like, she doesn't play fancy, but that's like her gimmick is just like meat and potatoes drumming, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how simple can I make this and make it rock? I like
Yeah.
that.
And it's heavy as hell, too.
It is heavy.
Which is great.
More space means more resonance.
You
For
actually,
a two-person band, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Man. It's just the sound of the production sound. The production sound is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I was recording a guy last week, and I was listening to the kick drum sound. I said, "Hey man, are you?" I asked him if he was burying the beater or unburying the beater. He goes, "I'm unburying the beater." I said, "Yeah, I really hear it. I really hear the resonance. It's, instead of him leaving the
not
beater
muted.
on the head, he's
Yeah.
letting it off, and the whole drum goes, goom, goom,
Yeah.
and it filled in a lot of space for the ballad he was playing. It was like really, it's cool. It's a good technique.
That's interesting. I've never tried that.
Yeah, it's called unburying the beater. I mean, sometimes when you bury the beater, it just sounds great too.
I like the
'cause
cannon sound. I don't like those gongy sounding bass drum. I mean, it's personal preference.
Yeah,
Maybe it fit for the song, but you ever heard a bass drum without a pillow in it, with just a skin, and you don't bury the beater?
Yeah.
It sounds like a giant gong.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I hate that sound.
Well, my favorite bass drum sound, and I mean it's just not practical for what I do and for recording and stuff. But my favorite is when there's two closed heads without the hole.
I like that too. That's how
sounds
Bonham used to
awesome.
record. He had
It's
those
like,
big 24-inch bass drums.
Yeah.
Instead of papa. But
Yeah.
Mike's like the papa. It's kind of sound. Like the shorter.
They are easier to EQ and put in the mix. I guess that's why people
and put a mic in
them.
there and
Exactly.
get beater click and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the one where you put that sub drum on the outside? It looks like a
the
tiny...
sub kick. I got one right here.
Yeah. The sub
It
kick.
looks like a small snare, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's basically just a microphone. It's a speaker that's in reverse polarity, and it picks up frequencies under like 100 hertz.
So that's a speaker.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
if I flipped it over, you'd see it looks like it's a Yamaha. The white cone, the NS10, and people were doing it forever.
Yeah.
So Yamaha said, we'll put it in on one of our shelves and we'll sell it. And a lot of people talk trash about it, but I think it's great.
It picks up the
I like
resonance
it.
too, right?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I bought it as a toy because I have Yamaha drums. I was like, yeah, this will be cool, And then now I need it. It's part of the sound, man.
Yeah. It adds that depth, right?
Yeah.
That deep
because you have like one mic's doing the click and one mic's doing the boom. So now you have it on faders and you can.
Or you can just trigger it.
Or you can trigger it.
Yeah.
It looks pretty.
It looks pretty. Yeah. It takes up a whole channel. We could be recording something else with it. Yeah.
So, would you ever consider recording or playing live with electric drums, or hell no?
Nah, man, I can't do it.
Not ever.
Not ever.
Okay.
Not ever. Not even for recording. I mean, I had this debate with a lot of people, and I feel like right now in the technology state that we have, we are close to emulating a real drum, but it's just never there.
Yeah.
You cannot. Like, I can easily hear the difference between a trigger and a real drum on a recording.
The
Definitely.
gap is too big right
The
now.
gap is too big to me,
Yeah.
but that's because I'm a drummer. I think a lot of people don't, because I mean, maybe they're not drummers, or maybe they just don't pay attention to it like that.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the metal stuff, all of the stuff now is triggered. A lot of the
metal currently.
currently right now, like all the metal stuff is triggered.
I didn't know
Right,
that.
all the metal stuff is triggered.
That's news.
Like
to
if
me.
you listen to like Periphery,
It's all samples. I mean,
Yeah.
it's real drums.
it's
and
real
then-
drums, so they're really playing, right? But
Yeah.
they have triggers on the kit, right?
Okay.
So when they hit the drums, they're not recording the actual sound. They're just recording the timing of what's being hit,
Yeah, it's
and
like
the
it's
hit
like
is being replaced by a sample.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so because like some things are just way too even, and sometimes triggers are cool because you can't get with samples, because you can't get certain sounds. Like you can't get a big snare sound that just rocks the whole room without having all the cymbals bleed.
Yeah.
So sometimes just a one shot that you layer under is cool. And now it's just super stylistic. But who knows? You got to be careful with stuff like that, because it could really date your sound.
Yeah.
In 10
Yeah.
years, if they stop doing it,
Yeah.
and they go, "Oh, this is from the 2000s," like triggers.
Yeah.
you
Would
notice
you,
it.
Would you ever consider?
I do it.
Oh, you do it.
I do it,
Okay.
but it really depends on the band.
Yeah.
Like for your band, probably not.
Yeah.
For any metal band that has to cut and they want the real clicky kicks.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
you really it's hard to get that. I mean, you can get it with mics, but it's tricky. It's tricky to get it. It's tricky to get it to really cut.
Yeah.
And have the control and really the loss of dynamics, because the whole thing about triggers and samples is that you can kind of keep it at one dynamic level.
Yeah.
And this way it's always da, 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 no
Yeah.
matter if he's softening up, when he's playing fast or, so everything has its place,
Yeah. Even though I wouldn't ever consider playing an electronic kit on stage, to me it just looks weird.
Yeah.
Like it's just weird, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Where's the real kit? I want to see like real drums. But I would love to have pads around my kit. That's
Yeah.
cool. Like rolling pads that has like different effects and
Neil
things like
Peart.
that.
Yeah.
That's something I would definitely do.
Yeah.
But to have an electronic kit and then connect it into the PA, I think it just kind of takes away from a performance of a band. To me,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a a hip hop band, maybe you have a specific snare that's the same snare on the recording, and you could just switch back and forth for each song. I guess that's like I mean, maybe that situation I'd consider it,
Yeah.
but still, I wouldn't want to do it. It's weird
Yeah.
to me. It's weird to me. I want to hear real drums. I want to hear real drums being hit, and I want to see real drums.
Yeah.
It's weird.
They're so beautiful too. Drums, like just
gorgeous.
the finish.
The light
everything.
bounces off of them.
Yeah, the lugs, or the hardware, the whole thing. So to not have that is
Yeah.
like, why not have that? It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's beautiful.
And the acoustics, there's something, especially if you play or if you go to like a nice concert hall, like a nice arena, like just even acoustically, it's like, bah!
Yeah.
And just the sound just resonates. And then when the sound reinforcements takes in, it's larger than life.
Yeah.
It's like,
Could you
but
ma-
there's something about, acoustics.
Could you imagine John Bonham playing on an electric?
Oh, no.
Just,
He'd probably destroy a kit.
yeah.
There's no way. There's no way.
This bloody thing's broke again!
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at the way you're playing them, John. Yeah, man.
So
That's great.
Josh, so before we go, I want to get your final take on what you think about the topic. Is the band as strong as the drummer?
I'm gonna still say yes.
Oh,
I mean, I totally agree with everything you said. I think it's great, but I think that when you have a drummer that lays a solid foundation, it helps
Yeah.
because you could at least listen to him.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up some good points, and I do agree with them. But at the end of the day, I still think having the drummer being perfect is absolutely essential. And that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way around it. Like, if you don't have a drummer that's on point, it's not going to sound right. There's no way to navigate around a drummer who's not, doing
I agree.
his job right. So that,
But I would agree to disagree.
yeah,
Because if the guitarist is better than the drummer, and the drummer could still play, not as talented as the guitarist, but can still hold that tempo, all I'm really worried about is that tempo being there and that person hitting the drums as it should be hit.
Yeah.
So I'm agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And that's why this is a debate show.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But yeah.
Our next topic is the Earth flat or
Yeah.
No, that's undebatable.
yeah. You're right. It's flat.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the Drummers Debate, episode 3. I'll catch you guys next time. I'm with Josh and Joe. Thank you guys for doing this. I
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
man.
it. I'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool,
Awesome.
bro.
That was fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
That was.